Morning came without mercy, dragging me from a night of fractured sleep, my body aching as if I had run for hours. Every sound outside my dorm window triggering the same cold fear I thought daylight would erase. I convinced myself it had been alcohol and stress. Yet the image of the little girl clung to me, her smile too wide, her eyes too empty, replaying whenever I blinked or closed my trembling hands. On campus, whispers followed me through hallways and stairwells, rumors about the subway accident spreading again, students trading half-serious jokes about ghosts, while I listened in silence, knowing exactly how real those stories truly were. I avoided mirrors that day, afraid of seeing something behind my reflection, and every time my phone vibrated, my heart jumped, expecting a message or call that should never exist from someone who should be long dead. By evening, exhaustion crushed my resistance, and despite every warning screaming inside my head, I found myself walking toward the station again, telling myself I only needed proof, something solid to confirm I had not imagined everything. The entrance lights buzzed weakly, casting long shadows on the tiled walls, and the familiar smell of metal and dust made my stomach twist, because memory told me this place did not belong to the living after midnight. I checked the time again and again, counting seconds like a prisoner, and when the platform display flickered, announcing the final train, my mouth went dry, realizing I was repeating the exact mistake that nearly killed me. The carriage doors opened with that same hollow sound, and stepping inside felt like crossing a line I could never uncross. The air colder than outside, heavy with the sense that something unseen was already watching me. I sat rigidly near the door, refusing to look too deeply down the car, but I heard her before I saw her, a soft humming that scraped against my nerves, innocent in tone and monstrous in intent. The little girl sat exactly where memory placed her, feet dangling, clothes darkened with old stains, turning her head slowly toward me, smiling with recognition, as if we were old friends meeting again by appointment. My throat closed when she spoke my name, not asking, not guessing, but stating it, and the sound of it coming from her mouth felt like fingers digging into my skull, claiming ownership I could not resist. She asked me to play again, producing the ball from the shadows, and I noticed fresh moisture glistening on its surface, my hands shaking as I realized the game was not optional, but enforced by rules I could not see. Each stop passed in suffocating darkness. No passengers boarding, no doors opening fully, only her laughter echoing softly whenever I hesitated, reminding me that disobedience had consequences, and that patience was never a virtue among the dead. At one station, I saw movement beyond the window, shapes that resembled people standing too still, their faces blurred, and I understood with sinking clarity that this train was not traveling through the city I knew anymore. The girl grew bored of silence and began asking questions about my classes, my friends, my family, each answer dragging more of my life into her reach, until I realized she was learning me piece by piece. I remembered old warnings too late, that spirits steal power through names and stories, and I fought the urge to respond, pressing my lips together, praying ignorance might still protect me, even as fear made my thoughts unravel. When the train slowed near my stop, relief flooded me so violently I nearly cried, but her voice sharpened, promising that games never truly end, and that walking away only makes the next meeting far more exciting. I bolted from the carriage the instant the doors opened, ignoring the cold wind of her laughter at my back, sprinting up the stairs without looking behind me, because instinct told me one glance would doom me forever. Outside, night air burned my lungs, yet safety felt fragile, temporary, as if the city itself had shifted slightly out of place, and I knew deep down that surviving once did not mean I was free. As I walked away from the station, every shadow seemed to follow, and the thought settled heavily in my mind that the girl was no longer waiting underground, but had learned how to wait patiently inside my life. By the time I reached my apartment, the hallway lights flickered as if the building itself was watching me return. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, counting my breaths, waiting for something to knock. Nothing happened, but the silence felt rehearsed, like it was holding its breath with me. I showered until the hot water ran cold, scrubbing my skin raw, yet the smell of rust lingered in the steam. When I checked my phone, the battery dropped from 80% to 0 in seconds. At exactly midnight, it powered itself back on. There was one missed call, no number, no timestamp. I didn't call back. I didn't need to. The first rubber ball appeared the next morning, resting neatly in front of my door like a gift. It vanished when I blinked, leaving only a damp stain on the floor. I skipped class that day and the next, afraid of empty corridors and reflective glass. On the third night, I heard bouncing outside my window. Even though I lived on the 7th floor, each thump was slow, patient, perfectly timed. I pulled the curtain shut, but the sound continued, now closer, as if inside the walls. Messages started appearing on my phone, arriving without notifications, deleting themselves seconds later. They mentioned places I had been, thoughts I hadn't said aloud. I stopped taking the subway entirely, walking for hours to avoid underground entrances. It didn't matter. I saw her reflection in storefront glass, standing behind me, gone when I turned. Sleep became impossible. My dreams trapped on the train, replaying the door ceiling shut. On the 7th day, exhaustion dulled my fear into something heavier and more dangerous. That evening, the lights in my room flickered once, twice, then steadied. The sound of a rubber ball bounced softly from the hallway outside my door. I didn't move. Her voice followed, sweet and calm, thanking me for being such a good player. She said games couldn't end halfway. She said rules mattered. I realized then that surviving the train hadn't freed me. It had enrolled me. The city outside looked normal. Cars passing, people laughing, unaware of the second world beneath them. I understood there were maps people weren't meant to see, and I was already walking on one. The bouncing stopped, replaced by silence that pressed against my ears. I sat on my bed until sunrise, knowing sleep was no longer safe. Because she knew my name, she knew where I lived, and she was done waiting.